So, good night and welcome to Mindful Live 176. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 25th of January in the year of our Lord 2023 and the beautiful Twin Isle Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. So this is Wednesday, and being Wednesday, the middle of the week, we over here at Mindful Studios have allotted Wednesday to be Tobago Day, where we talk about our sister island, the news coming from our sister isle. So that's what we're doing today on a Wednesday. I'm streaming live on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube. If you are streaming this over on TikTok or on Instagram, be sure to hit that like button. But you can also head over to YouTube at any point in time, not necessarily now. The conversation is generally much more pumping on TikTok, but you could head over to my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer, over there, and be sure to subscribe. You could catch the lives and repeat. You can see the stories scroll up and all of that good stuff. And there are other videos there and other videos coming. Someone was noting it's been a while since something other than the lives dropped on YouTube. There are other things very soon in the pipelines with that. We have a conversation series that we have more to drop on also. So yeah, we're talking Tobago, and the initial bit of news coming out of Tobago for this week, the most news coming out of Tobago for this week, is that the RIC consultations went over there. I was pointing something out when I was looking at the RIC consultations. So far, they are only in the east-west corridor so far, but someone was saying that they are going to go to other areas, and that will be great. So we'll see as they go along where they would get to. They got to Tobago this past week with their consultations about raising prices. And as I keep saying, the problem with the raising prices, anytime we're talking about raising prices, people are going to compare that to what they have to pay the raising prices out of their salaries. I understand that the rate hasn't been increased in a while, Chris 868 says, and I think most people understand that. Most people, if you ask them, they say they understand the rate hasn't been increased in a while. They say they understand that we have a pretty low rate compared to certain places in the world. People understand these things, but that's kind of both of those things are kind of irrelevant to the discussion. The main crux of this discussion, really and truly, is how much money am I making compared to how much money am I going to have to be paying out. If my salary, Blessed Night Levi who sign over there on Instagram, if my salary is the same it has been for years, for over a decade, and then in this same decade, as I've pointed out, in this same decade, prices have doubled. Certain things have tripled. Price for fuel at the fuel pump is skyrocketing compared to what it was, relative to what it was. And my salary remains the same. You must understand that if you're thinking about someone's salary as a budget, someone making $6,000 in Trinidad and Tobago, and there are many people in Trinidad and Tobago making significantly less than $6,000. Just by the way, many people are making significantly less than that. But let's say you're making $6,000 in Trinidad and Tobago, and previously, with your rent, your car bills, the internet bills, your electricity, all of that, your food bills, you had $1,200 of cash to play with after you budgeted the essential things. Your appetite for foreign, I'm not sure what you're talking about there, sir. So let's say after that you had that $1,200 to play with. Then over the time, in the 10 years period, your salary remains at $6,000, but fuel prices have doubled. So what your fuel bill would have been previously, it's now 2 times that. The food prices have increased on average around 50% in that period of time. So if your food bill was $1,000 for the month, an increase of 50% means your food bill is now $1,500 for the month. The fuel bill, if your fuel bill for the month was $400 in fuel for the month, your fuel bill now for the month for the same distance, if you are doing the same distance, would now be $800. So what was $1,000 and $400 respectively is now $800 and $1,500 respectively. The disposable income people have would have disappeared. The disposable income would have disappeared. The example I was giving, someone would have had $1,200 of disposable income, things to play with for the rest of the month. Now, we were just dealing with two things: fuel and food. Fuel and food. Your food bill and food bill of $1,000 per month is a real low food bill. Let's be more realistic. Your food bill for the month may have been around $1,500, and your fuel bill for the month would have been, let's say, $150 per week, so that's $600 for the month. Fuel doubled, so that's now $1,200, and the said food prices went up on average 50%, so $1,500 at $750. So now you're in $2,250 range, so that's $750 plus the $600 extra. I hope I'm not losing anyone with the maths. $750 plus $600 extra cut into your disposable income with just fuel and food increases. Fuel and food increases. And we said someone with a $6,000 income, they had a disposable income of what? Let's see, $1,200 was their disposable income. And you now have $1,150. Cut out of that, you have $50 remain from your disposable income from fuel and food alone. And then they are saying, well, you know, it's not a very big increase. It's not a very big increase. It's not a very big increase here if you know, we're just increasing the electricity bill by a little. But these people are saying, well, our disposable income is already shredded. We do not have the room for that increase. And you understand it. What's going on there in the chat? Crime looks attractive with all that pressure. Crime is never attractive. Crime is never attractive, but I understand it's a joke. I understand it's a joke. Crime is never attractive. Crime does not actually pay. That kind of crime that people often talk about, they don't make money with that. I always point out, to me, when I look at guys who went into criminal activity, most of them, they're still just as broke as they were when they entered. You don't see many people skyrocketing in success from there. Levi Hussein says you'll be living on credit, which is unhealthy both mentally and physically. Being realistic, a family of 4 should have an average income of $20,000 minimum per month. I like how you say should, because that's a nice way to say it, should. But bear in mind, someone who is working KFC, and probably the majority of KFC's staff would be mothers. Someone who is working KFC makes a salary of around what, $3,000 per month? They carry home a little more, depending. If someone is a laborer, and there are many people who have families and are laborers, they carry home maybe $4,000 or $5,000. $4,000 or $5,000. So even if they are in a joint income family, mommy and daddy there, but they're on the lower end of that working class, their joint income, both of them together, may be struggling to cross $10,000, if that much. And that is a large number of people in Trinidad and Tobago. Good night, Glenroy Dennis. Captain Zeke says, hopefully with the new oil income to come. That's a good hope. Chris868 says, can or should the present and past government pay for the mismanagement of the TNTech bill? I would hope so. But you see, the problem is, what is the government? The government isn't really an entity that we could hold and punish. It's very difficult to do that. The bill that has been racked up by the government over time through the government over time to TNTech. It's not one government, it has been successive governments. So it's not even like you could go and take a politician and read their bank account. Where does the government get the money? All the money that the government gets basically is all of our money in the first place. So for the government to pay their bill, they would have to take the money to pay their bill out of everyone's money anyway. That's always the thing people have to understand when it comes to government and government spending. The government, well, Trinidad has a bit of a unique difference because our government has the ability to make some money through our oil and gas sector, but by and large, governments aren't in the money-making business. What they generally do is redistribute that money. They take the money from one area and put it out into another area to other people. They aren't making the money from scratch. So whenever you're asking the government to do something, that's always something to keep in mind. That's always something to keep in mind. So yeah, it would be great if we could get the government to pay the bill, but the government is us anyway. If the government says, well, we don't have enough money to run the fuel subsidy anymore, where are they going to get the extra money to just jump in and pay the bill? That's the kind of problem. So you see, the problem is trying to catch the horse after it has already bolted, as it were. That's why the problem is the mismanagement in the first place. So people during the mismanagement don't make much of a problem of it, and then after the mismanagement is done and you're looking back in hindsight, you're like, oh my goodness, look at the destruction the mismanagement has brought. Who is to pay for this? Well, even if you could get someone to point the finger at, the damage is already done and the money is already owed. Where are you going to get that money from? Now, let's see what the Tobagonians had to say about the RIC and their consultations. Tobago community activist says RIC public consultations a farce. A community activist has described as a farce the Regulated Industries Commission's public consultations on its proposed new electricity rates. Addressing a consultation about the issue on Monday at the Canaan Bonaccord Multipurpose Facility, Lyndon Mack claimed there is a general feeling among residents that the Commission has already made a determination on its proposed rates. At this point in time, what you are hearing here from residents are the belief that you have already made a final decision. He said during the question and answer segment. You see, in Trinidad and Tobago, we do things backward, very backward. We come to residents for the very first time. This is the very first time I am hearing that your commission exists, because residents in Tobago don't know about you. We have never ever heard about you. Glenroy Dennis says many people feeling the credit crunch, yet they'll find money for expensive costumes. I don't deny that, but I think people need to be able to understand multiple things could be true at once, and there are different people out there. There are some people complaining about prices of goods, and they are spending money on carnival costumes for exorbitant prices. Yes, there are some people like that out there. Really, yes, there are. But there are also some people going nowhere for carnival, scraping up all their crumbs for carnival just to still try to pay all of their bills, and they are complaining also. It's not just the carnival costume buyers. There are some people who they're trying to budget, they're trying to do things the right way, and they're watching the bills keep climbing. Now, on the personal individual side, of course, for them, for those individuals, what they would have to do is they would keep cutting things back. That's the reality. That's the reality of life. As the bills climb and the income cuts, they will cut things back, and that's what is going on. So you're not going to see generally, and I've made this point, generally speaking, you're not going to see people starving in Trinidad and Tobago. You hear people talk about this and the poverty levels, and there are people starving and hungry. Good night, Charles. But really and truly, realistically, people don't starve for want in Trinidad and Tobago. That's not actually true. If you look at the statistics, I did an entire live on this. We went through the statistics. There aren't many of those. And if you think about it in Trinidad and Tobago, you would understand that too. No, there aren't people generally like that. But what happens for families, you are putting families in more and more difficult positions. Things that would have been common luxuries. So a car is a luxury, but it's a pretty common luxury in these times. That's something now that you are making out of reach for certain families. Internet access is a luxury, but it has become a pretty common luxury. That might be something you're bringing out of certain people's access. Air conditioning is a luxury. It might be the most common of luxuries, but it was becoming more common. A more expensive electricity is going to make that out of people's access. And I don't have this kind of view that luxuries are supposed to be out of people's access. I don't have that kind of selfish view. I think if everyone could have an air-conditioned, luxurious living, that would be wonderful. It's just you have to confront with the reality on it. Now, no one wants to climb down the luxury ladder. No one wants to be at a certain position when they're 35, and then by the time they're 45, they're in a lower position than they were. No one wants that. Hey, good night, Empress Rolling Cakes in the house, Tobagonian. Yeah, no one wants that. So when you present that to people, Of course, they are going to disagree. And the question the activist is asking there in Tobago is a good one. Is the consultation a legitimate consultation? Levi Hossein says, do what makes you happy because life isn't about working hard and paying bills. He asks, what do you think will happen if we have a budget to grant everyone $1 million per year? Then the $1 million would be worth nothing. That's the reality. That's the reality. If everyone gets $1 million, then the $1 million becomes worth nothing. 1 million becomes zero. You make 1 million into the starting point, because the whole reason for money and resources have to do with trading. Money itself has no value. Money is a representative of a value. Money is supposed to represent that I myself have some value that I have gained, whether through my services, whether through providing some product. I have this value behind me, and the money is supposed to be representative of that. If we just print out magically $1 million and give it to everyone, that isn't giving everyone $1 million worth of value. You're just printing $1 million worth on paper. So that doesn't actually provide the value into the system, so it does nothing. You're just going to make 1 million the new zero. That's what's going to happen. That's why giving people money has a limited amount of functioning. It has a limited amount of working. Just giving people money doesn't exactly work like that. But as I was saying, the point the Tobagonian was making is a good, viable point. Is it that the RIC is coming to do this consultation, kind of already making up their mind? And to me, the rhetoric you hear from the Prime Minister, from the Minister of Public Utilities, etc., the rhetoric you hear makes it seem like this is kind of putting the RIC through penance. So you're putting the RIC out there so the public could insult them and get their anger out on them. But really and truly, the decision is already made. This is just, some relief for the public. It's like you're putting a bubbly out there for the public to beat up a little bit. Let the public feel relieved on this. You wonder how much of it is actually consultative, as in, is there anything someone in one of these meetings could see that is going to change the electricity rates going up or down? So, what's the point of the consultation? It feels kind of pappy showish. And to me, this is a governance tactic, kind of more familiar with the PNM in a way. The PNM has more leaning towards the technocracy, and that's the way a lot of the world is going, where the experts make the decisions. So the experts on the panels inside of the RIC, they do the consultations, they look at the books, they see the price of this, they see the price of that, they look at it and they decide, listen, this has to happen, this has to happen. The experts make that decision. And there is that direction going on around in the world right now. The pandemic, for example, was one that brought up that very same thing, where experts say one thing and people are like, how much do we believe and listen to these experts? Are these experts infallible? So there is some of that even in this. Is it that the experts have already made this decision, and regardless of what anyone says, they could bray all night long in those consultations, it's not going to make a difference? Captain Zeke, isn't it better to do it now versus it in 5 years when the economy might be in a worse state? So, are you predicting that the economy is going to be in a worse state in 5 years? Is that the prediction? Is that the prediction that the government has, that the economy is going to be in a worse state in 5 years? I mean, if that is their prediction, then come out and say that. But I don't believe the government would want to say that. Well, do we raise prices because of a worst case scenario in case of a worst case scenario? That's what you're going to have to present to the people there. If you're saying that, what you're telling the people is, well, the economy might be worse in 5 years, so because the economy might be worse, then we need to charge you more right now. That's a scary prospect. That's kind of what it's kind of the scenario that is playing out right now with some of the climate change arguments. So some of the climate change activists are saying that in the next 30 years, the world is going to become too hot for the environment to exist as it currently is, and we're going to be in a scary position. So because of this possible reality, in 30 years, you need to give up oil and gas now. But giving up oil and gas now presents us with poverty and hunger in the now. So are you telling people that you give them poverty and hunger now for the possibility of a possible negative outcome in the future? And how many people do you think are going to buy into that? That we have to give ourselves a lower standard. We have to lower our standard of living now for the probable possibility of something bad in the future. I don't think that's a sound argumentative line. I don't think that's something people are going to buy into. Glenroy Dennis says the totalitarian tip to that end. Ooh, I like that alliteration there. So I like that alliteration there. I might steal that for contemplation sometime. But yes, I agree. That's my problem with the technocracy. My problem with the view that a couple experts are more accurate than the majority of people. I don't actually agree with that, because experts can be wrong, experts can be biased, experts can be evil, experts can be bad. So it's much better for me, my opinion, that you spread out that kind of responsibility throughout society. Even if someone is a genius expert, I still don't think they should make the decision on the behalf of the majority of people. That's not the way it goes. And you wonder if something like this presents that kind of reality to us, where they're telling us, they're consulting us because we live in a democracy, but really and truly, it's a technocratic decision that has already been made, because they determined that this has to be made. And they were saying over in Tobago that they didn't even know this commission exists. And this is something that has been said in quite a few of the consultations. People have been pointing out that the RIC is coming to us to consult about increasing prices, but different things that the RIC is supposed to be responsible for, we haven't been seeing them for. How many of you have had an appliance damaged because of a surge? I can tell you I've had appliances damaged because of surges, and there's nothing coming out of that. I don't know how long that rabbit hole goes, because I haven't reached to the end of the rabbit hole. But I could tell you, entering into that is a rabbit hole. Go to this one, go to that one, come back to this one, send you to that one. Don't know. You go there, 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 you go there. It's very difficult. You have got something replaced. Tony the Ambassador says the thing is, experts don't usually live like the ordinary man, so they are not aware of the realities. That is correct. That is correct. I remember when they were talking about salaries for parliamentarians. They were talking about salaries some time ago, and a parliamentarian was talking about how is someone supposed to live off of that salary, and they were talking something like 20 something, 30 something $1,000. And I'm like, what is wrong with these politicians? They're talking about how people are going to live on that salary, while there are people living on a minute fraction of their salary. Matthew Kamihu says, this is why I say that dictatorship and democracy is the same thing, just different labels. I could understand that view. Glenroy Dennis says, my career is a prime victim of current surge. True. Imagine business registration down in Trinidad since December 9th, and I gone in January 4th to do mine. Wow. And they started it. They didn't know till 11th January. Wow. Well, yeah, that's the struggle there. So over in Tobago, they are saying that, yeah, you're coming to us about this consultation, but your other jobs, we haven't seen you around. We don't even know you exist. Who are you? What do you do? Now, the RIC executive director said he was taken aback by that claim that Tobagonians did not know about the organization. He said, the executive director for RIC, he said, before COVID hit, our customer service people used to come to Tobago regularly to listen to people's complaints. So when you say that you never heard of us, I can't see why. Now, this is often a problem that you see. If you're on the side of taking complaints, and then you're watching on the side of giving complaints. You could say that you're taking complaints every day, while people who are giving complaints saying that I have never got my complaint taken. That's perfectly understandable. You could go to Tobago. You could go to Tobago and listen to 6 complaints, but there may be 100 more of those complaints that you did not listen to. Unruly King, okay, I get you. Great is the PNM. Yes. Wow, do you feel good that you have gotten that out of your system? Captain Zeke says you realize nobody in Parliament suggests a pay cut in solidarity with the people. Of course they won't do that. Mr. Rowley himself says he didn't take any vow of poverty going into there. And I understand. I believe people should get paid for the jobs that they do. But then you have to understand when people are looking at these things. Unruly King, if you attempt to derail the conversation with nonsense, there are moderators who will block you. So we don't do that here. Yeah. The problem is with parliamentarians, when you look at that, if you as the parliamentarian get to decide the salary for 60,000 people, for a big chunk of the working population in Trinidad and Tobago, the public service, you determine their salaries. You also determine the cost of the bills. You determine the cost of fuel, but you also determine your own salary. You must understand that people are going to look at this and say, okay, if by your determination, the system that you set up, it was determined that you cannot survive on a salary lower than $30,000, then how could the same people that figured that their salary has to be $30,000 to live, how could they figure that people could live on a $6,000 salary in the public service? Because it's the same people making those decisions, basically. Like, okay, yes, there's a salary reviews commission that takes the decision out of the hands of the parliamentarians, you know. They don't decide their own money. You know. There's a salary reviews commission that decides that money. Good. Gorgeous. What benefit you think that did there, Gorgeous? Did you think that did any benefit for Jesus? Like, think about it. Or did it do much worse? Think a little. Yeah, the Salary Reviews Commission is independent and they decide the salaries of the parliamentarians. Yes, good. But who appoints this commission? Just by the way, who appoints the commission? Oh, the president. And who appoints the president? Or the ruling government. All right. So they might not be exactly all that independent. And they get in there and they decide the salaries for the parliamentarians. And they decide that parliamentarians aren't supposed to be living on anything less than $30,000. So that same system somehow decided that public servants only need 4% increase in their salaries. Now, if you have listened to me enough, I am not someone saying pay public servants much more than that anyway, but I'm saying how is there that discrepancy? If it's that the parliamentarians need $30,000 to live, how could it be that the public servants could live with 4% increase that gives them just what, $7,000-8,000? How could those same decisions come out of the same? How could those completely different decisions come out of the same group of people? How is that happening? How is the discrepancy there? And that, I think, is the problem with the government salaries when you compare it to tea and tech, etc., etc., etc. It's not that I have a problem with them making a lot of money, but they're making this money off of the country's purse. So if you're making money off of the country's purse, then the country has a right to critique your money a little more seriously. How is it that you are allowed to still have $20,000 extra after you pay for the most luxurious of bills, but then you're telling the same people that are working for you that no, they can't get that? Something doesn't really seem fair there. It seems kind of like this whole new democratic system has eventually just morphed into the same kind of monarchic system of old, where you have the lords and ladies and the kings and queens, etc. out there. Yes, I understand there are 50 ministers but 500,000 public servants. But why isn't that? Why isn't that, Rooney? Why isn't that there are 500,000 and 50 public servants? The ministers are public servants. How come they get such a separate, outsized increase as compared to the rest? How is that so? Ashto says, I work in a lab and see many doctors struggle on 30K salary. Money does never be enough for some people. Well, obviously, the more money, that's true. I know that. The more money you make, you increase your needs to fill the space of the more money you make. That's how it goes. Empress Rooney says they can raise it higher, but people will get fired. Well, fine. Do that. That's the thing. It's 500,050 public servants. How come these public servants are saying that they cannot survive on less than $30,000 while they are saying that these other public servants must be able to survive on 1/5 of that? The fact is that every job has a range, unfortunately, for those at the bottom. Yes, that's a fact. And what I'm talking about here is that as the government, you cannot be surprised that people start to look critically at the range of your salary when you are controlling their salary and controlling the price of bills. You see, if all of this was left to the free market, if the government barely collected any salary, they weren't really too keen on that, they had their businesses outside, which was the original way a lot of this parliamentary system was supposed to be set up, where you're just a public servant coming to do a job for a moment while you have your main business outside there. But okay, and if it was that way and all these public servants were out there in the free market making their money, that's a different thing. But you are deciding their income while you are deciding their bills. You are deciding both sides of this person's life. And then you are deciding your income and your bills too. So they have a legitimate grouse now to look at themselves and see that you are increasing their bills faster than you are increasing their salary. And they look at you and see how you are increasing your salary way more than you are increasing the bills. They have a right to do that. You have control over it all. And in this case, it's not like a boss versus workers. It's not like I invested a couple 100,000 and bought my equipment and started a factory and started a company and took the risk and took the sleepless nights and started this. And then I hired people on that risk and they are now working for me. And then they're watching my money and comparing it. No. That doesn't work like that, because I put out from myself to start this. I assume the risk to start this. But this isn't what a government is. This isn't what a government is. A government isn't a private company where they are creating resources. A government isn't a private company where they are creating resources, and making money off of the resources that they created. Am I back yet over there on TikTok? I'm not sure. Am I live over on TikTok still? Just making sure. A call came in there and, the call sometime cut it. Right, good. Yeah. A government isn't a private business where they are making money off of their own work and they are just paying people from that. That's not what is going on there. That's not the same thing that is going on there. Is this true? Workers are the strength of a company? Yes, I guess. But replaceable strength. That's the reality. They're replaceable. They're the replaceable strength of a company. So yeah, it is true. Efficiency needs to be gained. Yes. And you see, in the nature of how businesses run in the private sector, efficiency is how people get paid. If you're the owner, if you're the manager, the CEO, somewhere high up in a company, efficiency in the company is what makes you get money. While in the public sector, it is not so. So it's not like these government ministers are out there being the most efficient they have to be, and that's why they earn top dollar. That's not the case. So you can't be surprised when people start to really look at your money and check your dollars and cents, because they have a right to do that. That's their right. All right. Born a woman tells RIC poor people struggling. A Bonaccord, not Bonnie. A Bonaccord resident has urged the Regulated Industries Commission to revisit its plan to increase electricity rates for residential and commercial customers. Lucille George Percy. Now, to the Tobagonians in the live, I don't mean this as an insult, but you must admit, Lucille George Percy is such a Tobagonian name. Like, I could have read that name, seen that name, and guessed this tanty was from Tobago. Lucille. Class, pure class, pure class, pure class, really. Lucille George Percy claimed many Tobagonians are already struggling to make ends meet, and an increase in the electricity bill would create more poverty in communities. She was speaking on Monday during the open forum, questioning the timing of the proposed increases. George Percy asked the chairman, Dordan Calendar, I want to know whether Dr. Rowley or the Public Utilities Minister is pushing this thing. She described as unconscionable the decision to increase utility rates when many people have not received salary increases in years. When last we got a raise of pay? Tell me. We got a raise of pay in 2014. Hear what? Hear what raise? T&Tech raised the price. Digicel gone up. They coming with land tax to go up. And all of that will be coming to us. George Percy added, what happened to the poor man? What is left in our pockets for food? That is what we have to consider. Leave the Begonians alone, Captain Zeke says, hey, I don't have anything wrong with it, I don't have anything wrong, any problems with that, But I just mean Lucille screams to Begonia. It screams to Begonian. Tobagonians still have some of those classic names, the Ednas and Eulins and Mavises and classic names. Names that have a rich history. Ronnie fix that there now. Unruly King is really unruly. He doesn't understand that rule has to work here. We don't work unruly out here. But yeah, names with that rich history. No, I'm not acting like it's a baby name, but it's just names that still are around there. In Trinidad and Tobago, in Trinidad, even people in their 50s, you expect certain names that are of a more recent ring to it. But even in Tobago, people in their 30s and 40s still have those names that ring true to history, that still link us with our rich and deep English history. They still have some of those names, and we family oriented. Yes, that's very true. So it sometimes there are names passed down from generations. So maybe your grandmother had a name. My grandmother's name was Gwendolyn. So if I was someone with that kind of culture, maybe I may have named my daughter Gwendolyn too, but my daughter is not named Gwendolyn. That's not my culture. But there are some people who pass on those names throughout the generations. And can you really blame them? That is a practice of the royalty, of the kings and queens. The royal lineages do that. I mean, Charles and William and Harry and those guys, my cousin 25 names, so oh god. Yeah. That's a beauty. Gwendolyn, as you say that, the name Gwendolyn has such a rich history that it's actually. What are you talking about, Tony the Ambassador? Dragging what? the name Gwendolyn is actually a root name for so many names. Gwen, Wendy, Lynn, Linda. All of those names came from that one name, Gwendolyn. It's a name at the base. It's at the very foundation, the linguistic foundation of Western names. So yeah, your cousin has a real strong name there, Rooney. More power to cousin. More power to cousin, you know. Yeah, you have to be able to see things on the holistic scale, you know. Yeah. So it's a name of a rich history. All right, yeah. Tobago news. We're talking Tobago on a Wednesday. Hey, I saw an interesting story there. A car burst into flames in Tobago. I saw the video, and then when I actually read the story, the man was trying to get away from the police. Tobago man crashes car while trying to elude police. A 23-year-old Black Rock man is expected to be charged with several traffic violations after the car which he was driving slammed into another vehicle and burst into flames on the Claude Noel Highway, Tobago on Sunday. Yeah, boy. I had an aunt named Pharaoh. Wow. Good evening, Scafty. Wow. An aunt, you said it, not an uncle. An aunt named Pharaoh. Word. What was for short? Faye? Yeah, that would work. Faye. If I was a girl named Pharaoh, my name was Faye. F-A-Y. Everywhere you see my name, call me Faye. What's your name? Faye. What's it short for? You don't worry about. Faye is good. Faye is good. Everyone calls me Faye. And in the road accident story out in Tobago actually reminded me of another story I read a little while back. But this one isn't this one isn't out from Tobago. This is just a random crazy story. You don't regularly see women involved in the kind of violent, active crimes, but when they do, there are some crazy. Woman abducts toddler, escapes in stolen police vehicle. A toddler has been rescued and reunited with her parents after being allegedly kidnapped and taken on a high-speed drive in a police vehicle. Police said that at 6:43 on January 3rd, the parents of a 1-year-old girl reported that they were at their Arima home when a young woman known to them paid them a visit. The parents stepped away for a moment to attend to a family matter, and upon returning to the location of their guest and child, they discovered the baby missing. The parents stated that they inquired from persons around the village and were told that the child was allegedly taken by the woman and was seen walking in a northerly direction along Tumpuna Road. This is Arima, eh? Arima. Officers gave chase and intercepted the vehicle. No, I missed a piece. Around 10:45 p.m., police officers on mobile patrol observed a speeding police vehicle driving east along Eastern Main Road, Puna. So she picked up the people child in Arima and in a police vehicle speeding in Puna. Alright. The woman but the strange thing with this too is she was driving east in Puna. So like me, I don't know if she already went downtown or wherever. She already made her rounds and was driving east like she's heading back to Arima side. The woman was driving the marked police vehicle. She was in a marked blue and white with lights on top. I wonder if it was the Grand Vitara. You know, like every time it's a Grand Vitara. I wonder if it was one of the Grand Vitaras. Officers gave chase and intercepted the vehicle in the vicinity of the Eddie Hart Savannah Eastern Main Road, Takariga. Further checks revealed that the marked police vehicle was unlawfully obtained from the Kunupia police station district. Upon checking, the police vehicle, officers also discovered a toddler. The child was removed, reunited with her parents, and escorted to the hospital to seek medical attention. Now, Arima take the baby, going east with a police vehicle in Tunapuna, the police vehicle missing from Kunupie. What a story. Like, when I read this story, it took me a bit. It took me a bit. Like, there must be more to this story that, they are telling us. Like, I have to wonder if the woman involved was a police officer. Who would steal a police vehicle? Who could steal a police vehicle? Like, who? I just kidnapped a baby. The vehicle that I would steal to get away with is a police vehicle? Something just really doesn't make sense there. Really doesn't make sense there. And on the line, as we're talking police, another story that came up, and I found it interesting. Yeah, I was wondering if it was a WPC. And they're just not seeing that part of the story. Another interesting bit there I saw with police. And I think this is an interesting story to juxtapose. Recently, we were speaking in the live about the promoters, the Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association, having problems with the police. They're saying that the police are basically extorting them. The police are, in order to get the license, the okay to host an event, you have to get the okay from the police for the security. The police are to determine how many police are needed for your event. But you pay the police when they come for that extra duty. So the police are determining how many police must come, and you have to pay them. And it has become a system where the police have determined that lots of police are needed for every single event, and a lot of the money that is made in events now must all be handed over to police officers. There was a particular one they spoke about, a school bazaar, where there were more police in the bazaar than teachers at the school. They spoke about was it a cooler style event, or was it a cruise, where they had 500 patrons and the police demanded 97 officers. 97 officers to 500 people. Something seems a bit strange about those numbers. Something seems really strange about those numbers. So the promoters were alleging some extortion. And the funny thing here is now the police are talking about some extortion in the North Stand. Beams for North Stand were missing, 3 held for extortion. Police have held 3 men for attempting to extort money from contractors hired to construct the North Stand and booths at the Queen's Park Savannah in Port of Spain ahead of the carnival season. Acting Senior Superintendent of Port of Spain Division of Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Roger Alexander, confirmed this yesterday. Alexander told the Express yesterday that a probe into the theft was ongoing. He also noted that 3 men were arrested under the anti-gang legislation for demanding money from contractors at the Savannah. But yet, there is a delay by the contractors with respect to taking it to a different level. You see, the way how a lot of these extortion schemes go is the contractor is approached and told, listen, XYZ gang running this area. If you want things to just continue peaceful for this job, you're making so much and so much money already, just run a couple 10,000 our way, and we make sure that nobody in touch your equipment, that nobody in touch your workers and thing, and everything organized, right? Fix up, best, work. But even if you arrest the 3 men who came with the message, they came with the extortion message, you arrest them. For the contractor, who still has a month more of work to do at this site, he's looking, although you arrested the 3 men, he's looking at this and, okay, if I go ahead with prosecuting this and pressing the charges, what is the likelihood that other members of this gang are going to pester my work site? What is the likelihood that I am not going to have a day of peace on my job site ever again after I press these charges? The extortion scheme is still running. It's still working. Yes, you arrested 3 of the men, but that isn't the entirety of the gang. And the contractor still has to work at the same location. Are you going to provide police to protect him for the entirety of that time? Are you going to tell him that he has to pay for those police doing that extra duty job? How is he going to do that? So, of course, the extortion still works. But I find it I just found it interesting that the police here are very upset about the contractors not pushing further to get to the bottom of this extortion scheme. You know, the contractors should press charges more to get to the bottom of this, carry to another level. But at the same time, the police are being accused of doing something very similar, a very similar extortion scheme. Addressing the issue during Beyond the Tape on TV6, Alexander noted that over the past few weeks, individuals who were linked to gangs and hired by contractors to erect structures at the Savannah have been stopping the construction work and demanding money from contractors. Alexander urged members of the public to consult the police when hiring people for jobs. Because when you go and hire persons of a particular ilk and their behavior is consistent with gang-like behavior because they are part of a gang, then what do you expect to happen, he said. And that is true. That is true. That very often contractors hire gang members and they face the consequences of this. But I wonder if Mr. Alexander is acting like he doesn't know how a lot of these things run. When a contractor very likely landed down on that site, it's not like they went out to the surrounding communities and said, hey, gang members, come, I have jobs for you. No. Very likely, exactly, well, they might not have a choice. Very likely that's what happened. You started doing the job here. You saw 5 men walk out from the community area there. They came to the job site, say, hey, where the boss man, boy? They say, look him there. They came to your van. You're sitting in your van there. They came and knock on your van. Hey, boss man. You know, if you come in the community, you have to give you a little walk too, you know. You can't come here and take all the money and go out. You understand? You have to give the people from the area a little something too. I am speaking from personal experience. Anyone who has any level of contracting experience, they would be familiar with this. And the thing is that that practice is common all over, not just with gangs. It's not just gangsters coming to tell you that. Regular people in communities, very often, they're looking for work too, and they see a big job starting in the community, they're coming looking for work. And they ask, and sometimes they ask a little more pointedly and with a little more force than usual. You have to give people a little work in your boy. You know, if you ask set of people idle wrong here, you never know what they're going to do. You know, they're going to interfere with things on your job. All right, so you give them the job. And when they have the job, then you recognize they are gangsters. They belong to a gang. And they let you know, well, run a little money, otherwise you would get. And that's the whole process of it. And I find Mr. Alexander is speaking here like he doesn't understand how it works. The reason extortion works is because the people are in a vulnerable position. Similarly, with the police, the reason the police's alleged extortion of the promoters work is because the promoters are in a vulnerable position. In order to host the event, you need this piece of paper. In order to get this piece of paper, you need the police. And the police know they are in that vulnerable position, so they take advantage of it. The gangsters know the contractors are in that vulnerable position, so they take advantage of it. It's the nature of the beast that is extortion. By the way, you covered the OWTU building resort thing in Tobago. No, I did not. I read that story earlier this week. I didn't even pull that story up. Good thing you said that. That is some Tobago news. I didn't even know that the OWTU owns all that valuable property in Tobago. That was news to me right there. That the OWTU owns such valuable property in Tobago. The OWTU is partnering with the THA to build some kind of resort. I find these things interesting. I would love to see how it all goes down. You see, unions have a tendency to speak like, you know, the workers are always right and the workers always deserve more money, etc., etc., etc. So I'm always anxious to see unions at the head of a company. I am always anxious to see trade unions own and run companies and see how they do. Because very often you see that people who work for unions let you know that unions aren't all that worker friendly sometimes. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that works. Good night 114 Simply Candy. Let's jump over and get into that story quickly. THAOWTU to develop Eco Resort in Charlottesville. The Tobago House of Assembly is collaborating with the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, OWTU, to develop the Cableton Estate, Charlottesville, into an environmentally friendly vacation destination. Chief Secretary Farley Augustine made the announcement on Friday during a visit to the historic estate, which is owned by the OWTU. He did not give a time frame for the project, but said stakeholders from Charlottesville and its environs will soon be consulted about the initiative. On completion, it is envisaged that the development will comprise 20 to 25 wooden cottages, nature trails, and a facility for research. Augustine said, we are looking to partner so that we can have developed in this area an ultra environmentally friendly vacation spot right here in Charlottesville on the estate. Something that is in keeping with the natural environment, but also something that respects the historical artifacts we have in and around the area. Interesting. Augustine said in the long run, the initiative will benefit the workers. The union represents the working class, but the state has the responsibility to ensure that the working class and those that are within the middle class that have been losing whatever benefits and privileges that comes along with being in the middle class, that they feel as though both parties can partner in ensuring the workers can benefit and enjoy a better standard of living. That whole paragraph made nearly no sense to me. I don't understand the sense of that. At the end of the day, all of this, the profits from what we will eventually do, the benefits that will be accrued from what we will eventually partner on here, will redound to the benefit of the workers. OWTU President General Ansel Roger endorsed Augustine's position about the need to create an environmentally friendly development in keeping with tourism trends globally. I am just anticipating seeing how this is all going to turn out. I would like to see how this is all going to turn out. Yes, the unions say that they have workers' interest at heart. Yes, the state says that they are looking for the interest of the middle class and the working class too. But when this thing is built, if it is built on the OWTU grounds, and it's going to run like a private company with the OWTU being the main profit beneficiary of this thing, it would be very interesting to me to see how it's going to run at that point in time. Rhea Ward says y'all gas is expensive. That is an understatement. Gas is ridiculous. You could feel the difference. You feel the difference. That's for sure. They don't care. They otherwise they would have come up with a proposal for reform. You know, as I regularly say, and I was pointing out, was that yesterday or the day before, when we were reading about what the energy experts said in the energy conference, where he was pointing out that a lot of times the people that we want, that the people that are responsible for making the changes are the same people that are benefiting from the status quo. If I benefit from things remaining as is, then why would I have any interest in things ever changing from being as is? You know, I like it. It's benefiting me that way. So why would I want to change? No one wants reform. Well, not no one, but no one in a position to do it wants reform. Highlighting issues alone could never be it. Offer solutions, alternatives, etc., 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 etc. I agree. To me, alternatives are outside of government. Leave government. Trinidad has too much government involvement in too many things. And I find that very often when we discuss things, we go back into the idea that somehow the solution for too much government is more government. The government has gotten involved in too many areas, and because of that, they have ruined many of them. And we think that what we need is the right government to come in and make it work. No, what we need is for the government to leave some of these areas, to not be in some of these areas. I remember this very same chief secretary, when he was campaigning to become chief secretary, was pointing out that 60%, was it, or more of the workforce in Tobago was employed by the state, and he was saying that's a problem, and I agreed. I was thinking, yes, that's thinking. This man is a thinking man, especially when you're talking about the area of tourism. You want people to have that entrepreneurial mindset, because that means they would be much more responsive to their customers. They would know what their customers want. While if you work for the state, technically your customer is the state. The person that you have to please is the people who are paying you, and the people who are paying you would be the state. While if you have it direct to the customers, you have to please your customers, so you are much more in tune with what they want. So I was like, yeah, this guy is talking. And then they get into power and they expand URP, they expand CPEP. They were talking about what the government must build here, what the government must build there, what the government must build there, what the government must build there, the government must do this. No. I think that's going backward. I personally think so. All right, though. This has been the Wednesday evening edition of the Tobago Monday, the Tobago Mindful Live. The Tobago Day Mindful Live. That's all I have for now, folks. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained, and I will see you guys for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be tomorrow evening at around 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Tomorrow evening, Thursday, is Thursday Talks, where there is no direct topic on a Thursday. We just come and we talk. Whatever questions you have, you can ask the questions, bring up a topic, we discuss it, we talk about it, we dive in, we see what news there might be on the topic, what information, what statistics, see what there is out there, and we discuss. That's what Thursday has in store, so be sure to tune in tomorrow evening for the Tomorrow Thursday Talks edition of the Mindful Live. I will see you guys then. But be sure to remember, all of this is brought to you by Mindful Education, Mindful with 2 L's _ education. If you are looking for us over there on Instagram, be sure to follow us there. That's the educational institution that I run. We offer learning pods for children from ages preschool to early primary to late primary to early secondary to late secondary. Learning pods are small homeschool styled classes, personal in-person teaching, where you get that familiarity and enjoyment back into learning. If you are interested in that, be sure to get into contact with us. We also offer personal tutoring for most CXC and CAPE subjects. If you are interested in that too, get into contact. Want to talk more about the wind farms tomorrow, please? Not a problem, Reeve. I want to know why the ministries can't pay their light bill. It's all the same thing, It's like the education ministry that owes MTS the billions of dollars. The education ministry owes MTS, and both of them are government. The ministries owe Tech. That's government. Tech owes NGC. That's government. It's kind of all government. It's government running all ends of this game. It's like the government is the police, the robber, the judge, the jury, the executioner. They're all the characters in this game. Nathan, that ad too long, it wasn't an ad, it was a statement. And it doesn't seem that long because no one left. You listen to all of it all on your own. I owe myself money I borrowed in dry January. That's exactly the idea. Might have to dim it a little. Might have to dim it a little bit. All right, folks. It was nice as usual. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace. Keep good. Keep nice, stay well, enjoy your evening so they don't get money in the budget for the utilities. What the money used for? They are extra bills, I suppose. They are extra bills. Laters.